Hello, I'm Summer Kath, head of design at Cambria, and our theme today is one close to my heart, the narrative of space. We're here to talk about why your home shouldn't just look like a catalog, but rather tell a unique personal story. We're moving away from the expected and exploring how to design for authenticity and true livability. To help us unpack this, I'm joined by three brilliant designers whose latest projects are currently featured in our spring issue of Cambria Style. And it's out now. So if you aren't a subscriber, you can sign up for a complimentary subscription. Just go to cambriausa.com/subscribe. We'll also put that in the QA chat box. So speaking of Q&A, our team is ready on this webinar to answer your questions during today's presentation. So just type your questions into that Q&A box anytime during the presentation. Even if you don't have questions, give us your commentary. We love that too. And I'll answer questions so you can ask me design questions about Cambria. But be sure to watch for those opportunities to join in the conversation. We'll also have some poll questions that will pop up. Now, also, if you want to rewatch, or of course, please share this webinar. You'll find the recording later on our website at cambriausa.com/style, as well as Cambria's YouTube channel. So now let's get to it. And I'm going to introduce our guests today. Please welcome first Christopher Kennedy, a Palm Springs interior designer known for California modernism. He's the author of two design books, California Modern and Making Mid-Century Modern. And he's known for bringing a synthesis of big city style and relaxed resort living to his work. Now, a little unknown fact about Christopher is he was a failed Disney Imagineer. Imagine that. But to the benefit of all his clients, he is here with us today. Hello, Christopher. Welcome.
Hi, Summer. Thank you for having me.
And we also have here today Heather and Matt French. This husband and wife duo lead a Santa Fe based interior design firm celebrated for bold use of color, folk inspired sensibility, and I love this, a touch of whimsy. The French and French style is rooted in the soulful artistry of Santa Fe, and it's shaped by and refined by East Coast influence. Now, fun facts. Heather was an acupuncturist to Matt's benefit, and Matt, he is still long distance mountain biker, and he's biked across from Canada to Mexico. Impressive. Welcome, Matt and Heather.
Hi.
Thank you.
Quite the duo. So it's going to be fascinating to see how these two very different design perspectives define storytelling. And I can't wait for you to hear their insights today. They're going to be good. We're going to give you the tools to move beyond the trends and start creating a home that is authentically yours. So let's get started. First up is one of Christopher's projects in Palm Springs, and it's also featured in the current issue of Cambria Style, featuring Cambria's Lakedale. So, Christopher, I've always felt that storytelling and design is fueled by materials, the textures, surfaces. It just creates that immediate sense of authenticity. Would you agree?
Of course, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And so, with that in mind, let's look at this stunning Palm Springs kitchen. It's a vacation retreat that you designed for a couple from Seattle. And you've managed to capture something really special here, which, as a master of desert modernism, talk us through the story you were telling when you designed the space for this couple.
Sure, of course. Thank you. So this is new construction. It's about 5,000 square feet. And as the architects designed it, it's a big white box. Let's kind of be honest. It's a big, beautiful new home, big volumes, big spaces. It was very white, but that really is intentional. So the story here is really about our client's story. And I wasn't trying to tell a story so much as about give them the space and a blank page to tell their own story because it's really kind of a unique one. It is a man and woman from Seattle. They were high school sweethearts and then went off to college and married other people, always kept in touch, or I'm not sure they always kept in touch, but they long story short, both got divorced and reconnected later in life with school-age children, and they chose not to blend their households. So this actually was their first home together. They waited until the youngest one was about to graduate college. They commissioned this house, and it was so exciting to really create the first space that is going to be theirs together. So it wasn't so much about my story as giving them breathing room and a blank page to write their own. And so I think you see that reflected in the very open space here.
I love that. And of course, you use the Cambria Lake Dale, which is kind of a centerpiece there on that island.
Yeah, it's just interesting enough. I mean, here in Palm Springs, we like a lot of white, we like a lot of, clean, modern spaces, but we definitely want some movement to feel a bit timeless, a bit classic, and the Lakedale really captures that. It just, these cabinets are white high gloss, the walls are white, and so we really get that great veining and that great texture. The Cambria really brings the depth to the space.
And I think this is a vacation home for them, right? And so
It
talk a
is.
little bit about, coming from maybe it's a little foggy Seattle to sunny Palm Springs and the vibe they wanted to capture in this home.
They really wanted to buck the kind of more colorful trend. They actually, the woman, the soon-to-be wife, has more color at her home in Seattle, deep jewel tones, a lot of rich color. So this was really designed to be the opposite. But she's very into fashion. So like we see with the pillow on the sofa, it's this kind of great black and white boucle tweed that really recalls a Chanel suit. So there's a lot of kind of fashion detailing. In this, but it was meant to just be really a foil and kind of a counterpoint to the more colorful, glossy modernism, which we're seeing, which we love, but wasn't
Mhm.
for the clients in this case.
And this living room that we're looking at right now, all the different silhouettes and textures and shapes, juxtaposed next to a little bit more of those right angles in the kitchen. Talk a little bit about how that all works together.
Yeah, so we see like a Vladimir Kagan ottoman kind of peeking in from the right for just a bit of a mid-century moment, kind of a stiletto look, I think, on the leg. And I did tell a story with that Frank Gehry wiggle chair. Can I tell you about that?
Oh, yes, the wiggle chair.
So that's an iconic wiggle chair. I went to school for architecture, so it's really close to my heart. So the wiggle chair, the husband's business is actually packaging and cardboard. So this iconic cardboard chair was the gift from our firm at the end of the project. It was a surprise to them, but since this is sort of the house that cardboard built, I thought it was appropriate. So it does tell his story in kind of a cheeky, if you know, you know sort of way.
Oh, I love that. And Matt and Heather, what do you think about the wiggle chair?
I love it.
I love it. It's great. This whole space is really, really beautiful. I love the art. Is that like a rope art on the
Oh,
wall?
yeah, the rope art. Good question, Heather. So that's fun. So, something that's challenging, I think, as professional designers, is, and we do a lot of homes from the ground up or a full remodel. So we're really picking out everything for the house all at once, right? I think that sometimes clients can potentially be afraid that it's not going to tell their story, that it's going to tell ours. And how do you create meaning when sort of they just buy this big box and suddenly all this stuff just shows up? So one of the ways that we do that is through curating the art. So we had picked out all the furniture, it was all on order, and they wanted to support local artists and a local gallery. So they decided to fly down for a weekend. We were going to pick out some key pieces for the house. Of course, I went in advance and I scouted some of my favorite galleries that would be appropriate, scouted the art, and I walked into a vintage gallery with this like amazing French owner, and I saw this rope hanging. It's like these big, a nylon ropes, and again, the wife's really fashion forward. I thought she would get it, or understand it. So that was kind of in the back of my head. I took them to this gallery during the shopping trip, didn't say anything. She walked in, saw this rope sculpture, made a beeline towards it, and I knew that she would get it. And then actually, we didn't purchase it at the time. The husband kind of said, "Oh, wow, it's kind of a lot. Geez, that's a lot of look. Let me think about it." And then we arranged it as a surprise for her. So he called the gallery, purchased it, and then we created a custom holder, and it was installed as a surprise.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
so
lovely.
cool. I
And
love
that's a
And I
story
love,
that I can tell, right? So sometimes it isn't just about storytelling in a home, especially when you work with a professional designer, isn't just about sort of their story. It's like it's about telling stories about how we arrived at this. And that's a story that I'm sure they're going to tell over and over again to all their friends. So the story of how you chose the pieces when working with a professional is as much about each piece itself. It's about how it all came together. And as professionals, creating moments like that, taking them to galleries, taking them to the workshop to see the artisans making the furniture, if that's appropriate, really weaving that into the process so they feel a part of it is to me very much about the story of how the house becomes what it is.
Mhm.
It's great. It almost sort of brings the view out the window in like the vines and the palm. It's great. And I love those sort of Tom Dixon pendants in there.
Oh, yes,
So
it
cool.
is. It is a Tom Dixon milled chandelier. Good eye, Matt, exactly.
They're
And there's
beautiful.
one in the entry too, and there's a very large one over the dining table.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
And I love talking about the process, the storytelling of how we found the art, but also if we look at some of the more permanent decisions, like, of course, the countertops, so the cabinetry in the home, you know, what does that look like in a story told versus found pieces? Like, do they have a bigger story?
I think it depends on the project, of course. Sometimes you want him to be more the star of the show. This was meant to be kind of more of a backdrop. We kept everything literally a blank page or a clean slate so that we could have more fun with the furniture and decor. So these pieces were meant to like very much be a blank page on which they can write their story and add objects that have meaning over time. I think like in Heather and Matt's project or other ones, sometimes the cabinetry and the things are more of the star. In this case, they're really more supporting characters. And that's okay because stories need all sorts of characters, right? So in this case, the sort of hard surfaces very much take a backdrop and play a supporting role.
I love that. Now let's move into another area of the home, the primary ensuite, which is gorgeously clad with Cambria's Gladstone. And I love the book matching in the two different areas. So I definitely want to learn about this. Talk about this part of the home and the why. Again, it seems like the hard surface is the backdrop here.
Mhm. Again, if you've been to Palm Springs, you know that you really just get this big exhale. If you drive in from LA or the cities like you exit 111, the minute you get off the freeway, your shoulders kind of drop. One of the best parts about flying into our airport is often you still like get off the plane, like on the stairs, onto the tarmac, like very Jackie O. You put on your sunglasses, you feel super glamorous, you look at that mountain, but like your cares just really immediately drop away. And they both have big lives in Seattle. It's very gray, it's very dark. We just wanted this to be really a big exhale moment for them and a blank slate and just really a fresh start. Like I said, this is really
Mhm.
their fresh start together. And I think that this bathroom really reflects that ethos.
And that door, does that go out to the pool?
Good. That goes out to a private bathing retreat. So there's an outdoor tub, there's an outdoor fireplace, and there's an outdoor shower. That can be used for the pool, but it's more for their private bathing. And yeah, the wife has a big stone bathtub, and the husband has a chair next to the fire, and he loves to spend time with her as she is in the bathtub.
Everybody gets what they want.
Right?
We love that. And Matt and Heather, how does this space make you feel? It makes me feel like I want to get in that tub.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate relaxation
Yeah.
space. And just like from an architectural perspective and design perspective as well, like I really it's a silly thing to love, but I love that center drain. I'm like totally
Yeah, the
inspired.
drain is cool.
Totally inspired by that like
Yeah.
detail and how it I don't know, there's something about the lines that it brings to the space that's really, really cool.
But is it big enough? I mean, really? For two people? No, I think so. But it's great. Yeah, it just gives them just space to relax and breathe.
Yeah, it's so beautiful
Yeah.
and
And
clean.
And clean. Yeah. I mean, one thing about, I mean, we don't have to harp on it, but one thing that is so great about the Cambria is it's so easy to clean. I'm sure that your clients, a lot of ours, really they don't want grout anymore, as little grout as possible is something we get asked for. We see that in the bigger format tiles on the floor. And it's so great that with the shower walls in the Cambria that it's just so easy to keep clean.
Yeah.
Because really, when you're on vacation, you don't want stress. So something that clients often ask, obviously they want very nice things and they're accustomed to nice things, but having to worry about it when you're on vacation isn't luxury, isn't relaxing. So these things need to be durable. They need to be easy to maintain. We want it beautiful, want it inspiring, but we don't want to worry about it. And that really is something that Cambria makes possible here.
Right. It's
Oh,
like
we
the
love that.
ultimate.
And so here we also have another part of the whole primary ensuite and the bedroom with that beautiful floating vanity. And we see lots of color, pattern, textures, layers and essentially the storytelling design elements are all present here. So talk to us about, what are the three essential things in the bedroom that you like to think about when you're designing these spaces?
I think people just want to be cozy. There's studies like whether it's a casino that people spend more money in casinos when the ceilings are lower and it's more intimate. I mean, I think the Wynn does that really well, one of my favorite hotels. And like people often, our clients build these really big houses and then they spend time in what? The smallest little cozy den, right, Heather and Matt? Because it's just human nature to want to feel safe. And this was a very big room. So we really tried to bring in ways to make it feel comfortable and cozy for their sleeping experience. So we kind of see layer upon layer. The ceiling is really high. We added the wall paneling as a layer up to the windows. Then we created this really big wraparound bed that is giving them another embrace. It was all tile throughout, so we have a really big sisal carpet that fills the room, and then two carpets on top of that. So one thing is just really make it feel cozy. I think you sleep better, and I just think you feel better. And then we brought in something personal. This art, I found it at a local gallery. It's from a 1980s French artist. It's this relief. It just really adds personality to the room. So I think scale, like that piece of art is 4 feet by 8 feet, and you might walk in and think like, is it too big? But the room really needed it. I think that people often underscale things. Would you agree, Matt? Like Matt and Heather, like if you're like
Yeah.
like if you're between two sizes on the area rug and you're not sure which one to get the bigger one. As long as it fits in the room, right? Like get the bigger one. You're not going to regret it. It's going to make the room feel bigger. The furniture is going to fit better. So I think generally sizing things up, and even in a small space, people often want to add small furniture, but that can have a dollhouse effect. So I really think really putting in furniture even in a small space, which I know this isn't, that maybe feels like it might just be a bit too big, the room will kind of expand to accommodate it and will actually feel bigger. So like this sofa in this room is 10 feet long. You can't tell, but the room is so big. So just really getting the sense of scale right and making it comfortable. Was that three things? I'm not sure I answered your question. I got sidetracked.
You did. You more than answered the question, Christopher.
What is the material of the art? Is it?
It's really so there's like plywood or wood, and then there's plaster and then paint.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. A little bit sexy, like she's kind of naked, hanging upside down.
Yeah.
Her boobs are out. That's okay. It's a bedroom. We can take a
That works in the bedroom.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
take a little
fine.
risk. Yeah. And then just everything is really sculptural. Like in this really big kind of white modern box, we wanted every piece to have a sculptural element, like the lamp, which was from the Banana Republic home line that lasted for about 6 minutes. We
Oh,
grabbed that
right.
lamp while
Yep.
while it was out. I've always loved Banana Republic, and I thought their home goods line was great, but it didn't make it, but we got the lamp.
It's a good one.
So Matt and Heather, if there's something that you could do, just one thing to make any room feel authentically livable, what would that be?
For me, I think it's the furniture planning and really kind of understanding how somebody wants to live and feel in that space. I think that's generally our like number one conversation outside of the aesthetics of what we want it to look like, but really how do you want to function in your space? And I think when you get that floor planning nailed down, the rest of it really flows together after that.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Absolutely.
think this room is a great example of that actually, where it's so large and then you added, more of like a living room space. I guarantee you they use that all the time.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. You
And it
know,
looks right up to the mountain. So, he works all the time. So,
Mhm.
like, I know that he loves to nap on this sofa. I mean, this is his vacation home. This is his nap spot. And asking those questions, like, how do you want to use this room?
Right.
Absolutely. Getting
And
that.
if you have long-term guests, having this type of like 10-foot long sofa in there to escape to, if they, if you need to get away
Yes.
for a little bit when the house is.
Yeah, when all the kids are in the house, I guarantee you
yeah.
they do close the door to the suite and cocoon themselves in for sure. You're right.
Yeah. As like an empty nester place too, and like thinking about the bathroom, and I mean this is non sequitur. I've been trying not to say it, but I don't know where or when I would put clothes on. I kind of don't know if I would, It just feels like such a naked place to me.
Well, then I guess we're successful because I'm told this is their love nest, right? And I think
Oh,
that there is they've used the word there, naked dance. So I think you picked up on the
Oh,
vibes. I think you got it. I'm going to take that
and
as a sign of
there's
success. Yeah.
storytelling right there.
Yeah, they are making memories for sure.
And maybe a new family.
Maybe.
Right.
Oh, I love it. Okay, well, let's transition into a completely different look, which is so exciting. Um, we are traveling from the crisp lines of California modernism to a Florida home seen through a distinctly European lens, which I love. So, Heather and Matt, you've described this space as both storied yet fresh, an elegant balance that honors history while embracing boldness. And it really captures what we love most at Cambria Style, that intersection of timelessness and personal soul. We were so captivated by this project that, of course, we featured it in the current issue of our magazine. But today, our audience gets the inside track. So, Matt and Heather, walk us through the decision that led to this incredibly stunning curated result. I know there's quite a story to be told. There was homeowners that transitioned it. So, take us through it.
Yeah, so so this was a very like builder's grade home when we came into it, and the clients, the wife is from France and the husband is from Chicago, and they had moved down to Florida from Chicago together. And they'd been in this home a few years and really lived in it, and it was very much so a gray box. And like I said, builder grade finishes, and they really wanted soul, and they came to us and wanted a really layered look, which couldn't be more opposite of what we were just looking at from Christopher's standpoint. And it's they kept saying that they really wanted comfort, they wanted to entertain, they wanted to take what was just drywall really and make it into something that felt European and cozy. And so, as a lot of these kind of this kind of level of home, you have this like one big open area. And so it was really large. And so we really wanted to bring in a lot of color and pattern, but in a very sophisticated, detailed way, which I hope we accomplished. I know that they certainly really loved in the end. And the one of the starting points was that floor. At first,
Mm.
if I remember correctly, I think the floor was like a laminate wood throughout the whole house. And we brought in this stone checkerboard floor throughout it. And they kept referencing from the very beginning, they wanted this like sexy pirate ship look.
Was that a new one for you? Because it's
Yeah,
certainly
that was the first. I've had some odd requests in my career, but that was the first. But I grew up in Florida, so I kind of understood what they were saying, and we really ran with that. It's like to me that meant warmth and millwork and yeah, like I don't know, like this like groundedness to it is really kind of how I was interpreting what they said there.
and maybe treasures. Like there's just, I mean, I see so many
Right.
treasures. I just
Yeah.
love like
So many
the
treasures.
spoils and the booty. Like it's
Right.
so
Only
just,
rum. It's all
it's beautiful. Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, these
Yeah.
legs these legs on this island. Can I ask a question? Oh my God, tell me about the legs on this island because they're beautiful.
Yeah, that was actually quite the process. We wanted this like very sexy, like tapered look, and it actually took it, there we had a couple of tries to get it right. So we had the legs made here and the skirt of the island made here in Santa Fe, and then shipped it all in one piece to Florida to get it because we have this artisan here that he's incredible at what he does, and we
Wow.
felt like we needed him to really execute this. So like getting that narrow taper right before the ball was actually really really challenging to
Yeah.
accomplish. Um, so yeah, we love how that turned out. And we used white oak throughout the entire kitchen, and then the Brittanicca gold warm was really the perfect um, the perfect stone to put in there. I love how the large patterning really kind of works and flows with this pattern on the ceiling and the drapery and the floor. It's like
Hmm.
it kind of levels out in a way that, there's so much going on, but it still feels calm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
often start with, oh, sorry. We often start like our design with a keystone fabric or, something that sort of we can pull a lot out of. But in a lot of ways, this stone here was something that could work to pull out of because there's so much tonality in it. And so you can really see it sort of echoing throughout the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
well, we love to hear that. And I know we're going to step even a little bit deeper in. So we get to see this whole dining area and zoomed in on this cabinetry. Talk about it's glass, right?
Mhm.
Smoked glass, like the detail and the texturing. It's perfect.
Yeah, so we did a custom paint color for all of the green that you see in the house, which was really the through that color it runs throughout most of the house. And the glass is just it's back painted. So it almost has this like very high gloss lacquer feel to it. And I love how that turned out.
Yeah, just like super modern. Like I think it just brings a contemporary note to like
Mhm.
all of this sort of almost old world, by design, this sort of old world. I wouldn't call it a pirate look, but okay, I mean,
We're
yes,
going
we
there.
nailed it.
Fruity.
Yeah.
But yeah, this sort of old world, yet fresh elegance, and that just adds a little modern element. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and the cabinetry itself is actually very, very simple. So it's just a
Yeah.
way to kind of like, transition it a little bit.
Yeah, and
Wow.
if there's any DIYers in the crowd, we used to back paint glass for all sorts of things back in the days because it's amazing you can get such a, high gloss looking finish on something
Mm.
and,
Yeah.
the actual application of it is doesn't have to be professionally done. Backsplashes and just glass on cabinets in general is something that we used to do ourselves back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've done tables,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then we used
And
architectural grill for the brass up on the top uppers.
Yeah, that adds such a great detail.
Thank you.
yeah, texture. It's layers and textures, but they all work so well together. And then the ceiling, which is a wall covering, correct?
Yeah, it's a Morris and Co. wall covering, and it's a smaller scale pattern, but it has like it's not a stripe, but it's like a zigzaggy kind of like long line, which is really nice. And there's something about it, it just kind of grounds the space. And there's another room that you'll see here in a minute that we added a lot of millwork to. And then we brought that wallpaper coming out from the base of that millwork to run throughout that entire area.
Was
I
there
have
any
a
pushback on that? Can I ask, like, I mean, we love to wallpaper a ceiling, but I've usually smaller rooms, like, maybe like an entryway or a den. I think you don't see sort of the kitchen,
Yeah.
breakfast area, family room
mhm.
done a lot. Did anyone think you were crazy? Maybe the GC or the paper hanger, or was there any pushback from the clients? Because this is a big space to wallpaper a ceiling.
Yeah. Well, in fact, the first round of wallpaper, the original wall installer couldn't do it. It I don't know what
Mm.
happened, but we ended up having to bring in another wallpaper to get this done. It's like a very thin like natural hand to the paper has. So like it's got like a slight
Mm.
free texture to it when you look at it in person. And so it was actually a really, really difficult install. But yeah, no, I mean, these clients we're really, really fortunate that we get clients that want to push us. And I always laugh and say sometimes we end up with a client that wants a little bit less than what we normally would do. And sometimes we end up with a client that wants way more than, than we would normally do. And these clients really kind of landed right in the middle and really trusted the process and trusted us. And so they were really all in when we showed them what we wanted.
Yeah, wallpaper was a much harder sell for us, for clients, I feel like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And people really thought we were crazy. I mean, I don't know how many designers or people in show houses would walk into our room and be like, "Oh my God, wallpaper!" Like,
So
but
we were wallpapering plaster out here in Santa Fe a long time ago. And that was, you know, a no-no.
You don't think about it in Santa Fe so much. You're right. You don't, I mean, I don't know that my mind goes there when I think
Right.
of Santa Fe.
Yeah, totally.
It's often the husband, I think, who sometimes pushes back. In the house we just saw, we put in wallpaper in not that big common room because it was very difficult, but most of the other rooms actually have wallpaper, including like a little family room that wasn't pictured off of the kitchen. And he likes it so much that he actually had us add it to the entire back wall of the living room. It wasn't in the photos, it was the wall kind of behind the camera in the photos because it just added some with warmth and texture. He actually wanted more at the end of the project.
Oh,
So.
that's
I,
so cool. You gotta love it when that happens.
So wallpaper, you guys have been doing it before it came back. You never stopped, which is amazing. And question, Christopher, is wallpaper here to stay? Is it going to stay in the desert?
I like to think so. Absolutely. I mean, I think it can evolve. Well, we love it both ways. We love like a big pattern accent, but I also just love, a classic texture. I mean, I think that in mid-century design in Palm Springs right now we're seeing a lot of like, kind of glossy Instagram worthy, like Airbnb moments
Mhm.
where there's an accent wall or a pop
Right.
of color or something. But really back in the mid-century, it would have been grass cloth on all the walls,
Mm.
wood paneling, right? So I think we're seeing maybe a return to that where we're not doing an accent wall, we're doing the entire room, and we're just really adding a lot of warmth and texture to these sort of clean, modern, contemporary boxes.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we see an accent wall these days, it's usually the ceiling.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there you go.
the sixth
The
wall,
fifth wall.
the
Sixth wall.
fluorescein, the
Yep.
fifth.
I
There we
bet
go.
I bet this is such a beautiful glow at night, this golden yellow. I
yeah.
bet it's just so beautiful and
Glows.
flattering, right? Yeah.
The house is really cozy when you're in it. It feels
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
It
lovely.
feels
Clients
cozy, like a
are,
big hug.
yeah,
Yeah.
these clients are love entertaining in there because, it's such a surprise, I'm sure, for most people to, walk into that designed a house, it's pretty exciting. They've, reached out several times. We had the greatest party and everyone was so stoked on it.
Yeah, we
So
just got photos from his 50th birthday party
Oh
and
my God.
hired somebody to do, and it was so beautiful. It was great.
Isn't that the best when they're just like living and loving the space?
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
That's what we do. We do. I mean, all these beautiful photos are great, but we're creating backdrops and stage sets for people to live. I mean, stage set's a sort of shallow word, but like we're creating the backdrop where they're going to live their human drama, and when we're helping them live it beautifully and have fun and make memories, that's what
Hmm.
we do.
yeah, it's the ultimate privilege to be able to do what
Yeah,
we do and give people the everyday experience of where they're gonna live their life.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at the before photos because this drama, as we talk about, is really amazing. And I know you alluded to it being the white and the gray and kind of a box. So
Mhm.
this is an opportunity for everyone to see kind of where it started and where we're going.
Oh my God.
So let it sink in.
Yeah, and it's like, ultimately, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's completely livable.
Mm.
And, like, if I was living in a house like that, I'd be extraordinarily happy to be able to do that. But, when a client comes to you and wants something that's warm and, very different than that, you go for it. And they were just so wonderful to let us, push to where
Mhm.
we wanted to go with it. And I think I love the flooring to me, I think, and the ceilings are kind of like the two things that really was such a big jump in that project.
Is this the exact same crown molding millwork, or did this paint, or did you actually change it?
Nope, it's the same. Yeah.
Wow, because it looks bigger.
Yeah, we added so we brought the cabinetry up to the ceilings and obviously redid the kitchen and then brought that out. But yeah, no, it's the same millwork that runs throughout the
Wow.
yeah.
Well, that's really
Really
shows the paint.
sustainable.
I mean, the paint right there transformed the space. That gray
Hmm.
color
Yeah.
was something that was already there. That's a great tip.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I mean like if you really study the before and after, you see like the same hood and all those things that it'd be
Mm.
easy for most remodelers and designers to say, all right, get everything out of here and let's start over from scratch, but there's really so much that can be saved and like so much that can be done to like incorporate what's already there, whether it's the client's furniture or, or whatever. And we really love, doing that, say like, not gutting all the cabinets and maybe just doing doors or even just painting and redoing hardware. I think the impulse is so often just to tear everything out, but you know, we're really proud of the jobs where we can leave things in and just design around it and make it all look great.
Yeah, they had actually really loved their refrigerator and oven and stovetop and hood, and we showed them different options and let them consider changing it, but ultimately they wanted to keep it, and we were really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah.
I think
Amazing.
what's also interesting is just even the dining room table. It was this rectangle, and of course, everything around it's very different. But then moving to a round table, I think makes a difference. Is there a rule of thumb, like when deciding in the shape of the dining room table for the space?
I I tend to I really like round tables personally. I like how conversation flows. It's not as segmented. They when we're in the floor planning stage, we'll ask them how many people they want to be able to seat inside or outside or whatever. So I do think that ultimately does define the shape of the table, how many people are going to be using it. But in this scenario, I think they wanted six, and a round table could fit, and so we were able to get that. And I do think it really, when you have these larger kind of open spaces, and you have a lot of rectangles in them or a lot of legs or, like chair legs and wood and whatnot, like you really want to, I try to be very conscious of how that all flows together.
It's great. Those red chairs are so awesome. Are they red? The dining chairs, they're just great.
Yeah, they're like a red oak with a yellow
Mm.
mohair, like a mustard mohair, hickory
And
chair.
even just adding those drapes, if
Uh,
you look at the before with just like your standard builder grade shades,
mhm.
and adding in those beautiful silhouettes of the drapes, is that something you guys lean into a lot in your projects?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, we're pretty drape heavy. We kind of
Drape
start
heavy.
start start with, drapery and upholstery and coverings. Um, we just really love, I mean, especially like the scale looking of that room to bring drapery all the way to the ceiling and
Mhm.
sort of elevate a space like that. It really brings the ceiling down at the same time as I say elevating. But I mean, we really start with
Yeah,
drapery.
we start with fabric, like Matt was saying, and a lot of the times we're coming up with the color palette for a house. Like so in this room, we took that color palette of the I think that's a Morrison coat. Oh no, that was a Zoffany fabric.
Okay.
And took that and let that run throughout the rest of the space as far as the colors and patterns go. But yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the before and after where there's the Roman shades and the before and then the drapery and the after, it really is so impactful. And for
Hmm.
me, I don't know why. It's certainly not camping, but whenever we put drapery in the space, like we could have it fully furnished and beautiful, and then we put the drapery in, and so I'm always like, oh God, that felt like camping before. Like it just felt so basic. And now like everything comes to life.
Yeah, there's something about just like even from the sound of a space and the feel of it, it's really sort of an anchoring and like calming acoustical thing to have, especially like, French pleated drapes or just the way that it, interacts with the space. And then, I mean, functionality wise, I mean, they really do serve a lot of purposes.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
I do a lot of drapes too. I think people often think we do really modern work. And maybe 10 years ago, I was doing a house like actually up in the high desert in Joshua Tree, and it was a new build, kind of prefab with kind of a prominent architect in Southern California, and I wanted to put in draperies in the living room and in the bedrooms. And the architect, really fought me. And I went to, to school for architecture, so I can speak with love and affection about architects. But the architect really was fighting me, saying, "Oh, mid-century houses, they don't have drapes." I'm like, well, first of all, this isn't a mid-century house, and B, yes, they
We do.
did.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. Like,
Incredible ones, actually.
had to go like find pictures of, like houses in Beverly Hills by, Neutra or whatever. They're all like, absolutely, these modernist boxes for sure had drapes in them. And to everything Matt said, they just feel so much more cozy. When we do modern new builds, the like kind of builder spec is like, plastic roller shades, and they just don't do the same thing as Matt said so well. I
Mm.
mean, I think you sleep better if you go to like a nice hotel, don't they, or even a two-star hotel, don't they always have like wall-to-wall blackout drapes? So as we do vacation homes, I think it absolutely feels like you're in this wonderful boutique hotel and you sleep better. It's darker, the sound, as Matt said. Yeah, big drapery fan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, no shade on architects or modern architects, but like, I think if they had their way, their structure would be completely like denuded of everything except for like an Eames chair, or like a Barcelona chair. Like, and that's it. Like, for some reason that they're like, okay, done, don't touch it.
And
I
ultimately,
knew I liked you guys.
I think the drapery really adds to the architecture of,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
well
know,
said. Absolutely. They enhance each other.
yeah.
And this is why you need to hire a designer. So
Oh my
let's
God.
take a look at more of this renovation. Look at these stunning spaces, you guys. That green, the blue, the wall coverings, the taffeted ottoman. Talk us through. And I know we have a before coming, but let's start here and then we'll get into the before after.
Yeah, so in the library, we added all of that millwork and the bookshelves behind the sofa. Um, it was I don't even remember what that space looks like. You'll see in a minute, but I mean, it completely transformed. And I do think that if you, to me, adding millwork and adding that type of layering, I think if you can do one thing in a space, that is really the one thing that you can do to kind of bring that authenticity into a space.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love that this sort of feels like perfectly Florida, but avoids all the cliches, which is something I strive for
Mm.
in a resort town too. Like, I want our design to feel, oh, of course, that looks amazing in Palm Springs or Palm Desert, but it doesn't, have any of the sort of expected ersatz cliches. And I think this, oh, sure, this is Florida, but it's not what you'd expect, but it's perfect.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah, we were looking at a lot of like South African
Mm.
inspiration as we were pulling different images for this house. And like the primary bedroom, I think that's kind of it's got like a little bit of that feel to it. I think that's a Pure Fray wallpaper if I remember correctly. And but it's interesting how a lot of these places around the world do kind of overlap in it. And if you look at it in a different way and then kind of bring in colors that make sense, I think that's how you can kind of have that sense of place still, and make it all relate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this was a conscious thing for us, but as we've talked more about being like Santa Fe designers or from Santa Fe, I feel almost like, Palm Springs is this way too. And you mentioned, Palm Beach, of course, is like there's such a look to those places. And there's designers that have a whole career of doing that, and
Yes.
they're, all beautiful and in situ. But like we had the dream of having a business that would outgrow the Santa Fe market. We've been lucky Santa Fe's grown and has been really great for us, but I feel like there's an unconscious need for us to like not like have like such a pin on something as being cliche outside of not trying everyone not trying to be cliche, but I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like we have a lot of English influence, perhaps,
Hmm.
in our
Yeah.
design,
Mhm.
which
Yeah, I
in
see it.
being English is like
Yeah.
such an international look, really. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like there's something to that of just us not wanting to be, Santa Fe designers in that regard.
I get it. As a small town resort town designer myself, I feel you. And what I love about this is it feels very traveled. So I think the whole pirate directive brief that they gave you, this feels like you
Gone.
could have gone on a ship and collected all these things, even though you chose them. I mean, probably all this was, I mean, perhaps they had a few things, but maybe this was all brought in at once, but it feels very traveled. Like these things they could have been on a worldwide pirate ship journey and brought some of these things back. Or seen something in a, seen this wallpaper and brought that idea back to this home.
Right. Yeah.
Very traveled.
Yeah. 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 I love that.
Well, let's look at the before because again, we're going to get a nice dramatic reveal here. Wow. Tell us. And I know this is a homeowner that had lived in the house, right, for a period before they
Yeah.
updated and they pushed you, right? They wanted to go here.
Yeah, they really did. She had a real vision for, like what she wanted and like when we go through the schematic design process and it's like this very, very extensive, Pinterest board where we're having these conversations of like, like, oh God, I hate orange. I can't, I absolutely can't have that color or, those moments where like, oh, I have to leave that, chest or, whatever in the home. We need to find a space for it. And so, like having all of those conversations really then kind of informs how far we end up going. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, like there's nothing wrong with it. It's a beautiful home, the before, but it wasn't speaking to what they wanted, in their life and how they wanted to, um, be in their space. But yeah. But again, I think it's that millwork that really, like that ceiling detail. I think that's the focus.
Dramatic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's gorgeous.
Sure
Well,
is.
I have a question for all of you. So if this room was a character in a book, who would it be now versus who was it in the before shot?
For me, it's like a little bit like Alice in Alice in Wonderland in the best way. Like the before is
Right.
just sort of the real world, and then maybe it's the like black and white, kind of checkerboard floor. But it's just like you've stepped through the looking glass, and suddenly it's
Yeah.
this just crazy topsy-turvy world that's so sophisticated and so
I
beautiful,
love
but
that.
it's just like this amazing fantasy that, yeah.
Hmm.
I love that. Thank you.
That is so well said. And that is exactly why you hire an interior designer so you can be your Alice in Wonderland, whatever your Wonderland is.
Yeah, we always try to prep our clients in those initial conversations and say like, we promise we're going to dream way bigger than you could ever think that we're going to dream, and I think that that's so exciting for people, um, and we take it, it's a big responsibility to get to do it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, people are trusting us with their homes, one of the most valuable assets, and their lives and their resources and their money. And it's a really big honor and responsibility. And while we like to have a lot of fun with it, as I think these end results show, is something that was certainly, I know Heather and Matt and most of our peers out there, all of our peers out there in the world, we really take it very, very seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
honor.
I feel like,
Absolutely.
yeah. I feel like the before is like, what a realtor would say to or like Zillow top 10 rules of things you need to do to like reset, get your return on investment, but
Oh
at
my
the same
God.
time, like the after is what Zillow would put on their like front page or like any realtor would want on the front of a realty magazine.
Right. That's my biggest pet peeve, really. I know we're out of time, but like one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone is designing something for resale. And I think that everyone has this idea in
Mm,
their head about
yep.
this potential buyer that doesn't really exist. Like they're not really out there.
Yeah,
Everyone's designing for this thing, this person
for
that
the
isn't
buyer.
there. And I think if you design something that you love and it's well chosen and beautiful, someone else is going to fall in love with it too. As wonderfully unique as we all are and as perfect as that house is for Matt and their client and like Heather's client, if they were to go to sell that, they're going to get top dollar and someone else is going to equally fall in love with it and pay way more. So
Right.
stop
Yeah.
designing for someone that doesn't exist. Design it
Yep.
for you.
Yep.
Boom.
1000%. Gavel dropped.
I love that. And in fact,
That's
it
what we're
kind of
at
tees
today.
us up for our summary here at the end. And this is the moment, even though you guys have already given some amazing final thoughts, but Matt and Heather, that home is beautiful. Everything you said about it and what you did. And I love that you said you tell your clients that you are going to dream bigger than they could ever imagine. And that is amazing. And that's what they pay you and hire you for, that love and heart. But any other last minute inspiration for our audience here?
I think don't be too precious about how you go about designing your home. You know, I think it's okay to break rules. It's okay to not listen to the rules. You know, it's really about living in what you love and feeling confident in that. And I think that confidence is true style.
I love that. And Christopher, bring us home. Final thoughts for the day.
Absolutely. I think going with your gut is always a good idea. So as they say, it's kind of tried and true. If you love something the first time you see it, you're probably going to love it the thousandth time that you see it. So sort of go with your first instincts. And when you hire a professional, if you give them a good brief and you have seen their work and you love it and it, resonates with you and they present a vision, kind of go with it. I mean, I think that their vision they presented, Heather Met, is such a lock, stock, and barrel, kind of all in. I can imagine those clients maybe tweaked two or three things, but then just said, I love it, I get it, and do it. And that's my best clients, the jobs that turn out the best. That's how our clients say, we pitch the whole thing. They maybe change two things. They say, you know what, you got me, you got the brief. I'm just going to let you do it. So kind of get out of their own way and trust the professionals and your gut.
Hmm.
Brand advice for many areas of life. All right, that brings us to the end here. We're going to round it out. You guys, this has been such a terrific conversation. I've loved it, and I truly believe we've given everyone an abundance of inspiration and ideas to help them move forward towards, a new design language that's layered, intentional, and entirely their own, which is a huge part of this authenticity. So, thank you so much, Christopher, Heather, Matt, and to all of you in our audience for your time and attention today. It's always a pleasure to share these stories with you. So we have more expert advice and deeper dives in these projects. Visit cambriausa.com/style. You can explore our blog and all the latest issues of Cambria Style magazine. And I'm also encouraging you guys to follow Cambria Surfaces, Christopher Kennedy, and French Interiors on all the social channels. Keep an eye on your inbox because we're going to send you a link of this recording so you can rewatch or share the insights, which is great. The archive will always be available at Cambria's YouTube channel or at cambriausa.com/style. So thank you for joining us and for your commitment to beauty, authentic design. Until next time, goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.